Hello! Here at AMACO, we're excited to share with you our new dipping and layering glazes. These glazes are designed to be layerable and easy to use. That means there's no calculations. They're easy to mix, they won't settle, crawl, or run if applied correctly. The colors include ebony, enamel white, floating blue, ultramarine, low tide, river moss, honeycomb, and oxblood. These colors are staple studio glazes and are all inspired by the Potter's Choice line. These glazes come in a box instead of a bucket. This will help reduce shipping costs as well as waste. One box will make about 1 gallon or 8 pints of glaze. And now we're going to mix a box of dipping and layering glaze. Today we're going to be mixing a box of the oxblood dipping and layering glaze. First thing, before we even open the box, we want to note the batch code. Batch codes are really important when making long production lines. It will help create consistency throughout the whole product. Now, let's open the box. First thing you're going to find is a package with instructions on how to mix, as well as a batch code tracker log. You will also find between that batch sheet and the instructions an extra label with a corresponding batch code. Again, the batch code is great for any troubleshooting or product support you might need, and this is also really helpful to put on the bucket or container that you're going to be storing your glaze in. Now, to get started, we're going to need our dry dipping and layering formula. A respirator to prevent inhaling of any glaze powder, 1 gallon of distilled water is best, 2 mixing containers, we recommend anywhere from a 2 to 3 gallon bucket, a drill with a mixing attachment, an 80 mesh sieve, a spatula or hard rubber rib, and a timer. First step is to pour our distilled water into our mixing container. The benefit of this is 1 gallon of distilled water is all you need per container of dipping and layering. Next step is to add our dry formula to our bucket of distilled water. Before we do that, we want to make sure that we put on our respirator as a safety precaution. Pour the powder in slowly to avoid raising dust. After the powder is emptied out into the bucket, take the drill and mix it for 15 full minutes. After the 15 minutes have passed, use the sieve to screen the glaze for any clumps. Continue mixing until the clumps have dissolved. After the glaze is properly mixed, cover the container with a lid or plastic wrap and let it sit for 24 hours. The reason why covering it for 24 hours is important is to make sure that all of the dry materials fully homogenize as well as absorb all of the moisture in that water. Early application can cause issues. After 24 hours, we can start dipping. All right, we're back in the AMACO studio, and now that our glazes have set overnight for a full 24 hours, we're ready to mix them up before we start dipping. Here you can see the 3 glazes we mixed up: low tide, oxblood, and floating blue. To mix, you can either use a stick, a whisk, or you can even use your drill if you have one. We always recommend taking your scraper and cleaning off the sides continually to make sure that you don't get any of the glaze dried up on the edges and cause any issues with your glazing. All right, now we're going to dip our first sculptural piece in our oxblood dipping and layering glaze. Make sure that you have a firm handle on the piece if you're using dipping tongs. When you dip it, you want to make sure that you have it under the glaze for about 3 seconds. If you have any openings, you want to make sure that the glaze fully gets inside. When you pull the glaze out, make sure that you're letting all of the glaze fully leave the vessel. Before we put the piece down, we're going to give the bottom just a quick wipe, just to help remove some of the glaze, so less cleanup later. So if for any reason you have a piece with a lot of texture, or if you're using dipping tongs, you can just cover your fingertip with just a little bit of glaze and slowly fill in those spots just to help clean up the surface and make sure that it has an even coat of glaze all over. All right, next we're gonna be glazing this mug with our floating blue on the outside and our low tide on the inside. To do this, we're gonna hold the piece from the inside. We're gonna slowly dip it into the floating blue, holding for 3 seconds. Now that our mug with floating blue is fully dry, we're now gonna coat the inside with low tide. Next, we're gonna glaze a mug in low tide with a floating blue rim. Now we're gonna do just the rim in floating blue. We're gonna dip it a little bit extra just to get the top of the handle as well. Set upside down to let any drips fall off the piece, or else you're gonna get a run of glaze when you flip the piece back over. All right, to showcase all the features of dipping and layering, we wanted to showcase actually brushing a glaze either underneath the dipping and layering and on top of. Next, we're gonna be dipping our plate in half and half. So it'll half be floating blue, the other half will be ox blood with a slight layer where they overlap. We wanted to make sure that the glaze slightly overlapped, making sure that this surface is fully covered in glaze. Sometimes if you have a larger sculpture or a piece that can't actually go into a physical bucket or a body of liquid with the dipping glazes, what you can also do is make sure that it's in a large enough and safe enough environment that you can actually pour the glaze on top of the piece, coating it within the dipping and layering glaze. Now all the pieces are glazed. We're gonna let them fully dry, and then we're gonna load them into the kiln. Well, our pieces are out of the kiln, and look at how well they turned out. You can see how well the glaze emphasized the texture of each piece. They also broke beautifully over the edges. The surfaces are really smooth and have a nice, pristine quality to them. The dipping and layering glazes are just that, excellent for dipping and layering. They also provide a plethora of combinations between them, as well as our other high fire glazes. The dipping and layering glazes are perfect for production potters, studios, classrooms, or even a single glaze enthusiast. Our dipping and layering glazes can be found at your local ceramics dealer. For a list of those ceramic dealers, visit our website. Happy glazing!